Hello everybody, it's Zachariah. Before I start my run today, I just want to tell new viewers that I'm dedicating my 2019 running to run 150 miles for the 150 police officers that died last year. But I also do not want to forget the ones who have already passed away in 2019. And today I'm going to be running for Corporal Totty. He worked for the Baton Rouge Police Department, and he was on his motorcycle, and he got hit when somebody turned into his lane. And he was 31 years old, and he just came back on duty after suffering a gunshot wound last year. And he passed away yesterday, and he left behind a wife and a child. And he worked for the police department for about 5 years. And today I'm going to be running 4.5 laps around my loop, like I've done every time. And also, I'm thankful that the Winter Springs Police Department came out for the second time to put their flashing lights on for my run, and Spectrum News is here as well, and they're going to be doing a news story on me. And also, if you're on an intersection, please look twice for motorcycles because they're very hard to see and you can injure somebody very badly. So, and I'm gonna do a quick prayer and I'll be on my way. Alright. Again, 4.5 laps from my loop is what I'll be doing today, which is a mile.
So for those of you that are just now tuning in, our son today is running to honor Corporal Totty from the Baton Rouge Police Department. Yesterday he was actually leading a funeral procession, and a driver that wasn't paying attention pulled out right in front of his motorcycle, and unfortunately we lost him. Even sadder is he actually was shot last year and just returned a few months prior back to the police force. And our hearts break. He's worked for the Baton Rouge Police Department for almost 5 years, was 31 years old, and he leaves behind a wife as well as a young child. So I want to thank the Winter Springs Police Department for coming out and for giving their tributes to our fallen Baton Rouge police officer. Again, those just now tuning in, Zachariah is running to honor him.
How much? How you doing? I was just seeing if George needs some help. He actually just got me out here with him. What's going on in your back? Oh, that's cool. He's doing he does the lap. Yep. Oh, we got the. Yep. So I noticed he ran a couple of days. Have y'all been out here every time you did it, or?
So for those now tuning in, Zachariah tonight is running to honor Corporal Totty. He worked for the Baton Rouge Police Department in Louisiana. Yesterday, while leading a funeral procession, unfortunately he was struck by a vehicle that wasn't paying attention, and we lost him. He just returned to the force after actually surviving being shot last year. He worked for the Baton Rouge Police Department for almost 5 years. He was 31 years old, and he left behind a wife as well as a young child. For those that are just now tuning in, every time a fallen officer is reported, Zachariah pays his respects by running 1 mile for every one of them, carrying a blue stripe flag to honor their sacrifice. He's currently working his second of 4.5 laps. I want to thank the Winter Springs Police Department, who's out here as well, paying their respects to one of their fallen brothers. Again, he's running today to honor fallen Corporal Totty, and he's currently working his second of 4.5 laps. We also want to thank Spectrum News 13, one of our local news stations. They're out here as well. Again, for those that are just now tuning in, Zechariah today is running to honor fallen Corporal Shane Totty from the Baton Rouge Police Department. We lost him yesterday. He was leading a funeral procession, and a driver that just didn't look a second time for motorcycles pulled out in front of his motorcycle. They collided, and unfortunately he lost his life. Corporal Totty actually just returned a few months prior from getting shot on duty last February. So he was as strong as they come. He worked for the Baton Rouge Police Department for almost 5 years. He was 31 years old at the time of his death, and he left behind a wife as well as a young child. Tonight, Zechariah is running, carrying the blue stripe flag in his honor, and as become the norm, I want to thank the Winter Springs Police Department for bringing 2 cruisers out here and joining Zechariah as he runs to pay tribute for our fallen corporal. Again, those tuning in, Zechariah is working now his third of 4.5 laps to honor fallen Corporal Shane Totty from the Baton Rouge Police Department. Once again, for our new viewers tonight, Zechariah is running with the thin blue line flag, blue stripe flag, as he runs to honor fallen Corporal Shane Totty. Corporal Shane Totty worked for the Baton Rouge Police Department in Louisiana. He actually worked with that department for just under 5 years. He's 31 years old. Yesterday afternoon he was leading a funeral procession, and while leading procession, a distracted driver just pulled out right in front of his motorcycle and unfortunately struck his motorcycle, and he perished. About a year prior, he actually was shot while on duty and just returned a few months ago back to duty. Again, he was 31 years old, leaves behind a wife and young child. Currently, Zechariah is working his 4th of 4.5 laps. And I want to give another thank you to our hometown police department, the Winter Springs Police Department, for coming here and honoring fallen Corporal Totty along with Zechariah.
Hey boss, thanks again. I gotta get going.
That's fine. Zechariah's on his final half a lap. Again, big shout out to the Winter Springs Police Department for coming out and joining Zechariah in his run for support. For those just now tuning in, Zechariah is running his final half lap in honor of fallen Corporal Shane Totty. Thank you, Winter Springs Police Department, for showing your respects. Corporal Shane Totty worked for Baton Rouge Police Department. His motorcycle collided with another vehicle that pulled out in front of him yesterday. He's 31 years old. Leaves behind a wife, as well as a young child. Those sirens are the Winter Springs Police Department also paying their respects. So again, those just now tuning in, he's working on his last half a lap. Zechariah, do you have any closing words for Corporal Shane Totty?
Just bless his family, bless his relatives, and bless his department. And just, if you're on the intersection and you see a motorcycle, just look twice, because you can get somebody very injured. But thank you again for the Winter Springs Police Department for bringing the guys out, and Spectrum News came out here today, so very thankful for that, and bye guys.